Thanks, Aaron. Smith Teamaker is located in the Pearl District, and right across the street is a cafe called Brecken. They serve Water Avenue coffee, so I drink a lot of Aaron's product, and I can say firsthand it's a wonderful experience. I'm going to grab a slide projector real quick. So I finally caught the bug that's been floating around town, and I'm now more Tylenol cold than man, so if I start to scratch out, I apologize. But I'm here to talk a little bit about tea. I thought we'd just quickly walk through what is tea. The tea industry has for a long time. I've been doing this for 17 years now, believe it or not. And they've always said 1 out of 10 consumers in the U.S. is a tea drinker. We know in the Pacific Northwest that number is a lot higher. And in fact, in Portland, I think about 75% of people drink tea at least 8% of the time. But everybody has tea, and we know that we're not coffee or tea drinkers. We're consumers. We like beverages of all different types. We like our craft beers. We like our spirits. We like coffee. And as well, we like tea. Smith Teamaker is a small little business. We've been operating for about 5 years now. We're located on 16th and Thurman. And what we like to do is make tea the best we can. We import ingredients from just about all the premier producing regions of the world. We keep them by themselves in their garden packages untouched until we need to blend them to produce the tea that we need to sell to you as well as restaurants. We try to maintain basically 2 weeks of inventory because we want to provide you the freshest tea possible. In addition, we like to collaborate with all of us around us, people like Water Avenue, as well as Salt and Straw, as well as Olympic Provisions, as well as Be Local and Jacobs and Salt. We like to take inspiration from all the people around in our community, and we like to have fun. So stop in sometime and check us out. But what is tea? Tea, from a consumer's perspective, is any leaf, berry, bark, herb, seed, peel, root, anything basically that has been dried after it's been plucked from a plant and then steeped in hot water for a period of time. We extract the aroma and the flavor and the color, and then we enjoy what we call in the industry the liquor. Tea is also the common name for an evergreen shrub known as the Camellia sinensis. Now, it's kind of like saying all wine comes from grapes, all tea, green, black, white, and oolong comes from the Camellia sinensis. The deeper you go into the subject, you realize there's actually a lot of, similar to what Aaron just described, a lot of different varietals and cultivars. There's a lot of different seeds, clones, hybrids that can make different styles, can make different aromas and flavors to provide unique experiences. There's about 3,000 to 4,000 varieties of tea. So tea, technically, is green, white, black, oolong, are the 4 main types. And then there's a few other smaller types, yellow, blue, and so on and so forth. We're going to conquer the whole color scheme here as we expand in the industry. And then there's also herbal infusions. These are the roots and berries. These are hibiscus flowers and spearmint and peppermint, and things that are probably a lot more familiar to all of us in some way or another. But we're going to focus a little bit on tea. What you see here is a shot in China, actually, and what you see is the new growth. So this evergreen shrub during the harvest period, which is often known as a flush, produces new growth. And as Mother Nature wakes up from being dormant through the winter period and early in spring and April, it produces these new leaves and buds. And what we do is we come through and we pluck them about every 7 to 10 days. We manufacture those into those 4 main types. It's the manufacturing process that will dictate whether it stays green, whether it's transformed into black tea, whether we go somewhere in the middle and have oolong, or whether we just naturally dry and have white tea. Yeah, there we go. So, during the pluck, they're plucking this top 2 leaf and bud. Now, as you can imagine, it takes a lot of those shoots to make finished tea. You can see over in the right photo, that's some people estimate about 2,000 shoots or pluckings after it's dried and after it's finished its processing to make a finished pound of tea. Unlike coffee, tea is fully manufactured in the countries of origin. We can't import the green leaf and roll it ourselves at Smith Teamaker or make it into a green tea or a black tea. The only thing we can do is select the teas that we like, blend them with other ingredients to manipulate or adjust that flavor profile before we offer you the finished product. But a lot of the quality teas are harvested by hand, and then in this process they go through the fields and they collect those, and then they quickly rush it off to the factory. Now, as Missy kind of said, we could talk for a whole day on tea production in general and how tea is manufactured. It is a complex equation. It can be summarized as it's the controlled reduction of moisture and the managed process of allowing it to oxidize. So when they collect it from the plant, it's 70 to 80% water, and they're going to slowly bring that down to about 4 to 6%. The first stage in which category of tea you're manufacturing, the first stage is withering. So they take the leaf off the plant, they brush it into the factory, they set it in troughs or environments where they can manage or control the temperature of the water or temperature of the air to reduce the moisture content to make it ready for rolling. I kind of use the analogy, maybe as a poor one, of mowing the lawn when it's really wet. The grass is really, really wet, and you try to mow it, it just plugs up the lawnmower, right? If you try to roll tea directly after you've plucked it, it's got too much moisture, and you don't get any breaking, and you don't get any of that maceration that's required to produce the style and to have the chemical change that's needed to make into oolong or black tea. So by reducing the moisture to about half of this content, they get it to that perfect balance where it has enough moisture so that it doesn't just break up and fall apart, but not enough moisture to allow it to basically get twisted into those wiry shapes that you see with finished tea, and to allow that oxidation process to occur. So I've said oxidation a couple times. One, our industry for a long time, prior to me being born and after, uses the term fermentation. We in Oregon are very familiar with fermentation. It's not truly a fermentation. There's no yeast or sugars involved. It's actually an oxidation. It's a process very similar to if you cut an apple in half, allow it to sit down on the counter, it starts to turn brown. That same chemical change is what turns green tea into black tea, or sorry, green leaf into black tea. So for green tea, they want to prevent that from happening. So they heat it through steam or pan firing in some way or form. They heat that leaf after it's withered. That kills the natural enzyme that's contained in the leaf and therefore prevents it from ever oxidizing. So they process it to keep it green. With oolong tea, they allow that process of oxidation to occur. So they start rolling it, they break the cell membranes up, which exposes this enzyme to oxygen. The process starts, it starts to oxidize and turn to black tea. And then they brush it off and they heat it to cease that oxidation before it fully oxidizes, or it will turn into black tea. White tea is probably the least defined, but most tea professionals would say that it's just naturally dry. Snapple kind of had it right in their commercials. It's the baby tea leaf, and we pluck it and we bring it in and we just let it dry naturally. It's one of the few things Snapple got right. But and then black tea is fully oxidized. Black tea is what we typically consume the most of here in the United States by volume, although it's changing rapidly. And every day that goes on, more and more green teas, whites, and oolongs are being consumed. Partly, I think, because the quality of greens, whites, and oolongs that are accessible to us in the marketplace has dramatically increased over the last 10 years. And I'd like to think we had a pretty good hand in that. So, rolling in general and the chemical process that I've alluded to, what you see on the left, that's a rolling machine actually in China. The ones in India and Sri Lanka are a little bit bigger, but look pretty much the same. And it was originally built to replicate, your hands going like this, which is still how a lot of tea is manufactured in more of a cottage industry kind of style. The leaf is plucked, it's withered, and then it's placed in between these two rolling platforms. And actually, in this particular roller, the leaf is placed in this drum. Pressure is exerted down, pushing the leaf up against that bottom surface where you see it has those little kind of ribs like a hand citrus juicer. Those are what grabs the leaf during this circle motion and kind of twists it. It's important, it does two things. One is, like I said, it breaks that cell membrane and allows the enzymes to be exposed to oxygen. Two, it's it's twisting the leaf, which is important not just for the visual of the finished product, but it also, imagine like a beach towel. It's wringing the moisture of the leaf to the exterior parts of the plant, so plant material, so that it can receive more oxygen and so that it can oxidize fully. The moisture also helps spread that enzyme throughout the leaf so that it has a more uniform oxidization. So that's, the main reason why teas are rolled is to create aesthetic and to create oxidization capability for black teas. So after it's oxidized, then they have to bring that moisture from 30 to 40% down to 4 to 6%, which is, as consumers, what we get when we open up a bag of tea. It's anywhere from 4 to 8%. When we're done, that process is done a number of different ways, but it's basically just dry. A lot of the dryers, commercially, they're belt drive systems, and heat 300, 400 degrees is applied, and the tea leaves spend about 8 or 9 minutes going through there to dry them to their final moisture content. And then afterwards is where all of the mystery and lore and come in, is the grading process. And we've all heard, the OP, OP1, BOP1, BOPF1, OF, and all of the different grades of tea. During the process of rolling, breaking occurs, and when you're done, you have some little tiny particles. You have some little slightly bigger than that particles, and then some of the leaf retained its shape and it didn't get broken up at all, and it's a whole leaf, if you will. So historically, the whole leaf, or orange pecco, was the largest particle to come out of the dryer. And that's really all I can really say OP means. It's the largest particle to come out of the dryer. So they sift this with mechanical or with hand strings to separate those different sizes. And then we give them all of those different names, which to us don't mean as much as others. NPR said, it's FTG FOP1. It's fairly too good for ordinary people. We like to think, we think differently as Smith Teamakers to that, but all that really means FTG FOP1, and technically it's a floral, tippy, golden, flowery orange pecco. It's trying to describe the liquor, it's trying to describe the leaf appearance, it's trying to describe the appearance. Marketing and everything else comes into play, so you be the judge. When you go out shopping, not all full leaf teas are equal, we'll just say that. So tea production in a nutshell, it's harvested during a period known as the flush. It's harvested about every 7 to 10 days. During those 7 to 10 days, the plant regenerates that new growth. We can come back in and pluck it again. A flush happens about maybe 30 to 60 days. These are huge rules of thumb, by the way. Every origin is a little bit different. Once the leaf is produced, it's rushed into the factory, and that's where they're going to deem whether it's green, white, black, or purple. When the tea is fully manufactured and it's been sifted into its different grades, samples are taken. A lot of the tea in the world still gets sold through auction houses, and a lot of the tea is sold privately. But samples are taken, they're sent via UPS and FedEx and everybody else to buyers around the world. We bid on them, haggle on them, and then acquire those teas, import them directly, and then blend them. So on to the real topic of the day. Origins. So similar to coffee, tea grows and thrives in tropic and subtropic locations. This map is a little outdated. I lifted it off of Google. I don't know when it was published, but it has 80 to 90% of the world's tea marked on it with cute little tea leaves. As you can see, we have tea here in Oregon growing. We have tea in Hawaii. In the last 10 years, I think there's been tea planted in a number of different unique positions, and we're seeing some really, truly interesting flavors and aromas coming out of those areas. We've tasted the tea that's grown here in Oregon, and although it isn't up to our standards, it's getting better and better, and we do think that eventually it might be something that we can appreciate just as much as a fancy oolong out of Taiwan or a beautiful green tea out of China, and so on and so forth. But most of the premier producing regions are the Indias, the Sri Lankas, China, Japan, of course, Northern Africa, Indonesia, are the regions that have been producing tea for a very long time, and produce some of the world's best. So just a couple snapshots, a couple images, so you can kind of see what it looks like firsthand. China. China doesn't have regions, they have provinces, and in every province you have green tea, white tea, oolong, and black tea being manufactured. Some are more typically steered towards one type or another based on the type of plants they have and the know-how and the equipment. But for the most part, if you have a tea plant, you have a factory, theoretically, you can produce whatever tea you like. This is a garden, an organic garden in Zhejiang province that we source tea that goes into our Malfeng. It's actually Malfeng tea. We didn't take a whole lot of time naming that product. And Fez, which is our Moroccan-style green tea. It's actually lemon myrtle from Australia, spearmint from our neck of the woods, and green tea from this garden. This garden makes a wonderful tea kuan yin, as well as a Bai Hao oolong. But its primary product is this Malfeng. It's very picturesque. It's one of the few gardens in China that's privately owned by a gentleman actually that lives up in Washington. He's a good friend of ours, one that we travel to frequently. And their best teas are harvested in April. The plant has just woken up from being dormant, and it's just starting to produce those new growth. It's putting its energy into producing the young, basically, and generating that new growth, and that's when it produces a lot of the aroma and flavor compounds translated into the cup. So this is it's a beautiful garden. They take organic cultivation very serious. They like to own the entire process, and they've been great partners for us for many years. India, everybody knows, grows tea. There's several tea growing regions within India. There's three that I'd like to talk about today. One is in the South India, and actually South India produces a lot of coffee as well, and spices. But down near Kerala, Cochin, and the Nilgiri Mountains, is actually one of the highest tea gardens in the world in Korakunda, and they produce some really nice teas. Most of the teas coming out of that region are very common, very commercial, but there's a handful of artisan producers that are quite nice. And then everybody probably, at least here in Portland, knows Darjeeling teas. They're famous. They're up in the northeast part of India, near the Himalayas. And they produce wonderfully rich and wonderfully aromatic and complex black and green teas. The slide here is of the Assam River Valley. And this is actually one of the exceptions to the rule that good tea comes from high elevations. Assam is darn near sea level, but is situated so right in the foothills of the Himalayas. The Brahmaputra River deposits all the minerals and that they get from the runoff of the mountains. It's a very fertile area. You can see it's very flat, which is untypical for a quality tea producing region. Assam produces malty, rich, complex teas, very astringent. They have a heart and backbone of breakfast blends. And I should have started off by saying we messed up in bringing you some fantastic teas to try, but no hot water to steep them with. So my apologies for that. But in the lobby or in the hall right next to Water Avenue Coffees, you're going to see a huge selection of our teas. Please take some. We're going to be scrambling to get some hot water up here as soon as I walk off the stage. But in the meantime, grab some, take them home, and try them, please. But Brahmin is our breakfast tea, and when you steep Brahmin, when you start to smell, you get that malty kind of top note, and when you drink it, you're going to get a lot of kind of complex sugars and malt and a little bit of very pronounced astringency or dryness, like your mouth is right now. When you're talking, you're going to be nervous, but it will. That is what Assam teas are known for. Indonesia is a very unique origin, and I'm already running over time, but Indonesia, Java, and Sumatra both produce a lot of tea. Most of the tea that the islands produce are very commercial, are used as cost producers and fillers and blenders for a lot of the big supermarket brands, and also can make some really nice iced teas as well. There's a handful of gardens in Sumatra, up near Mount Kayuaro, that produce some really awesome teas, and that I think in the future will find their way into the Smith product range. I included Sumatra because it's one of the few top producing tea origins that also produce wonderful coffees. And if we have the time, I could dive into all of the reasons why, but we'll move on to the next one here. Sri Lanka is actually one of the more interesting, and if I've been to all of these origins, and I would say if you want to travel and see a tea plant, Darjeeling is beautiful. Sri Lanka is also really cool and has more of that island vibe, and I think you really appreciate it. Sri Lanka has 6 growing regions, of which 3 are known for the, producing wonderful teas, Uva, New Aurelia, and Dimula. Now, Sri Lanka, the entire island is dictated by monsoons. And in January, February, when the monsoons hit the eastern side of the island, the western side of the island produces its best teas. And then later in the year, monsoon hits the eastern side of the island, the western and the eastern side of the island. And if I got that backwards, it doesn't matter, just flip-flop. But it's basically Dimula is on the west and produces, back in the day, we went out to the supermarket and bought an orange Pecco tea. Tea, most likely you're tasting in Dimula. They're very round and provide a lot of center. And when you're blending tea, we're looking for start and finish and top notes, but we're also looking for a center, which provides kind of a structure for all of those top notes to sit on, if you will. And Dimula is our go-to region for that. And New Aurelia and Uva are other tea-producing regions in Sri Lanka as well. Sorry I rambled on a little bit. Again, my name's Tony. We're at Smith Teamaker up in the Kerala district. We do a lot of cool things. Come in and see us if you can. In our tasting room at 16th and Thurman, you can have a flight of tea. You can taste each one of these individual origins. You can also taste blends side by side and really get a better first-hand understanding of these flavors and aromas. And thank you for your time.